Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a review and just kind of overall overview on my Ruger American Ranch. This one's in a 450 Bushmaster. Talking about some first-hand experience, and I just talk about some things I do and do not like about the rifle. So hope y'all are interested in this, and we're going to go ahead and get started into the video. Y'all stay tuned. So first things first, a bunch of y'all may be wondering, what is the 450 Bushmaster cartridge? 450 Bushmaster is a straight wall cartridge, as I'll show you here. So straight wall meaning it has no taper on the shoulder or the neck of the cartridge, unlike how a 5.56 here does. And for size comparison sakes, you notice they're very similar in size. That's another thing to note. The 450 Bushmaster also was designed to be able to fit in the AR-15 platform rifle. Granted, you'll have to get some different magazines for it, but it'll still work with your standard lower receiver. You may also have to swap out a heavier buffer tube, for example. But straight wall cartridge is like the 450 Bushmaster here, meant for states like, I know Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois are all straight wall states. So those states have a bunch of hunters, and their thought process, at least the DNR, is to eliminate chances of possibly hunter accidents, such as maybe accidentally shooting somebody, and it also limits your range. So on the box here, 0 at 100 yards is going to drop 10 inches at 200 yards and over 38 inches at 300 yards. Versus something like a 301 mag 270, you're going to 0 at 100, maybe experience 2 to 3 inches of drop. So it lessens your range significantly. And that's another thing, what's the purpose of the overall straight wall cartridge. Moving on to the gun itself, just name a few cons with it. One thing I have never been a fan of with any Ruger American rifle, it's not this particular one, is the forearm flex. It's pretty much impossible to put a bipod on here without getting a new stock and without it affecting your accuracy. Another thing to notice, speaking of the stock, is the cheap, kind of hollow feeling stock this one offers in the Ruger American rifle. I just have never really been a fan of them. It's just like the Winchester XPR, Savage Axis. They all kind of have just cheap stocks on them. But you have to also realize the price point. However, this one's bumping over $500. The Winchester XPR stock is a little bit better than these, and they're kind of about the same price. So you'd expect maybe a little bit more from that, but that's just one thing to note. Next thing to pay attention to is the trigger. So this trigger, fortunately, I've been able to swap it out. I got a Timney in here. This one breaks like glass. I have not had a single issue with this one. Safety and everything works just fine. But the trigger it came with had awfully a lot of creep to it, even after being adjusted several times to increase the poundage or lessen the poundage on the trigger. It still just had some noticeable creep to it, and I've never been a fan of that, so I went ahead and swapped it out. That's probably most of the negative things I have to note with the gun. So moving on to a few of the pros. One of the main things I am really fond of with the rifle is the magazine. Both Ruger Americans I have, one in 270, this one being 450 Bushmaster. It has a little rotary magazine. Both of them hold 3 rounds. I have not been as happy with the magazine as I have with these. I put it on par with the Tikka magazine. It works flawlessly. Pops right in, doesn't come out, has a really positive click, and just a great feeding magazine. Another thing to notice is you got this kind of tank of a brake for a gun on here. Warning, this thing is obnoxiously loud. The pig I shot with this, I forgot to put on my earmuffs. I could not hear a single thing after firing it. So that's one thing, which some of y'all may not like, is it's very loud. I was doing some calculations. This thing's probably somewhere close to about 160 decibels. That's significant. But on the bright side, it's threaded. I believe it's a 5/8 by 24 thread pitch. So, if you have a can you want to run on it, which I plan on getting here soon, you can run a can on it. It'll lessen the recoil while it's at it, and also kind of save your ears. Next thing to notice is the bolt. So with this being a cartridge, which I would essentially call a mini action, how Howa calls them, the bolt throw is very, very short. And it's overall pretty smooth bolt throw. I can't complain. Very smooth bolt cycling, I'm correct myself. But the bolt throw on this is at 70 degrees. So with all 3 lug bolts, how this one is, you're going to have that typically. It's going to be between 60 and 70 degrees. And just makes more clearance for the scope, and it makes handling just a little bit quicker. You can cycle this thing fairly quickly, and it's something I've really been fond of. So, final thoughts with the gun. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. 450 Bushmaster, especially the cartridge, is really taken off. You know, you have people like Federal, Winchester, Hornady. Those are kind of like your 3 big ones who are making 450 Bushmaster ammunition. Federal makes, I believe they make 3 different loads. Winchester, I've seen 2 loads. They have the Power Point and the Extreme Point, I believe it is. Then Hornady has their whitetail, the American whitetail loading, and their Hornady black loading, which is a 250 grain FTX bullet, which I've seen a lot of good things about online. I definitely recommend this, especially if you just want a handy gun all around. Keep in mind, with the scope I have on here, it's a Redfield 1-6, and with everything else, it's maybe 6.5 pounds. From the factory specs, it's 5.5 pounds. So it's a very handy gun to carry around the woods. And not to mention, the short 16-inch barrel on it makes carrying it around not really noticeable at all. So I hope everyone liked the video. I hope everyone enjoyed it. So if you happen to like stuff like this, want to see some more gun reviews, just leave them down in the comments. I hope everyone has a great day, and thank y'all for watching.